engine open.
Howdy, everyone. Pull up a chair, kick up your boots, and take a sip on a nice whiskey. It's the Quick in the Pod, the second season of the Support Your Local Podcast show, where we take a look at some of your favorite movies one chapter at a time. We are part of the Movies by Minutes group. Check those out for any of the movies that you may like. And as always, I am your host, Robert T. Smith, coming to you from beautiful Tombstone. Yes, that one. Today we are going to look at Chapter 7, A Gun For Cort. But before we get into that, I see a shadow kind of looming up on the boardwalk. The Batwing doors are swinging wide, and there's a tall, dark figure standing in the moonlight. We have a guest today, one Mr. Joey Prinzi. Joey, how are you today, sir?
Oh, I'm glorious.
Good.
Glorious morning.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. I'm glad to have you here. We are going to, again, take a look at Chapter 7, Gun For Cort. But before we do that, just want to take a moment and welcome Joey here. I see that you're interested in our little competition that we have going on, a little gunfight going throughout the town. Joey, I got Pat Hingle up here with a piece of chalk. What is going to be your shooter name? What can we do to put your name on the board?
My shooter name, it's always preceded me. It's Pooontang Down.
Pooontang Down. I like it. That's two O's, or is that with a U?
3 O's.
Oh, bigger is always better. So I've heard. All right, Pooontang Down. I like it. Speaking of putting the name on the board, that's a great segue into a segment that I love doing, where we take just a little bit of a deeper dive into one of our cast and crew of the movie, get a feel for where they're coming from. I don't think this one is going to be much of a surprise figure, kind of an unknown to most people. I think you're going to know who we're talking about today. But this is a segment that I like to call Put My Name on the Board.
Put my damn name up.
And for today's segment, we are going to take a look at one Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio. You may have heard of him from time to time. He's been in a couple movies, Joey. I don't know if you're too familiar with him, but he is, of course, our babyface gunfighter, Fee, also known as the Kid, one Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, where do you even start? So I did a little deep dive onto him, and by that, people know that I do half-ass research on Wikipedia, but whatever.
As long as it's half the ass.
If you're going to go ass, you have to give at least half. You can't go quarter. So
yeah, no. At least have half the ass.
Yeah. I kind of knew going in that he started his career around the Gilbert Grape movie. That's where I think he first kind of popped up on the radio and radar mixed combined.
I got you.
But I was kind of surprised when I looked. He actually had a couple bit parts before that, ones that I should have been familiar with. I was kind of surprised. His first credited role that I saw was a direct-to-video sequel, Critters 3. And being a schlocky, cheesy horror fan that I am a huge fan of Critters 1. I am a huge fan of Critters 2. I don't know that I can say that I've seen Critters 3, but hey, if you got a chance, man, go on Shudder, look it up, see if you can find it free somewhere. Might be a look to do Spot the Leo. But I guess that's where he actually got his start on it. The very next year in 92, he was actually a cameo position in Poison Ivy, the Skinamax-like sultry movie with Drew Barrymore.
Familiar. I'm familiar with the movie.
I may have seen and or experimented with that movie a little bit in my time. 92, that's right about the peak time for that. But go watch that movie for the Drew scenes and stay for the Leo cameo. See if you can spot him on there.
Yeah, I don't think he was the focus for that movie.
He was not. No, there was we'll leave it at that.
He was not the wolf of that movie.
No. Not even a little bit. And if you like that movie, hey, by all means, check out Poison Ivy 2 if you're a Alyssa Milano fan. Check out Poison Ivy 3, where I discovered where Jamie Presley. That's where I first got her from. So riveting movies. The script is tight. Yeah, okay. That gets us into 93, and that's when Leo kind of falls onto everybody's radar. Playing Arnie Grape and What's Eating Gilbert Grape. A very, very good role. Anybody that hasn't seen that, please go back and watch that. It's worthy of the award nominations that he got for it. 95, you have The Basketball Diaries, you have Total Eclipse, and then you have what we're talking about today. So The Quick and the Dead, the Sam Raimi classic. Fun fact on this movie, the reason that he's actually even in this movie is directly because of Sharon Stone. So kind of to go along with when we talked about Russell Crowe and we talked about Sam Raimi, and just in general, this movie even being made, all of this cannot happen without Sharon Stone. So she was the producer on this movie as well. This is very much her vehicle. She was driving everything that went on this. The studio did not want Leonardo DiCaprio for this role. He wasn't a proven commodity at this point, but she saw something in him. Sharon Stone actually personally paid his salary to be in this movie. That's how much that she wanted him on board, where the studio would have balked if they didn't want him. But you can't really argue with a producer when they're paying it out of their pocket to get somebody on there. If it's not hitting your budget, it's not really your call anymore. But I did find that interesting that's how determined she was to have this somewhat unproven at this point commodity. I mean, maybe she saw Critters 3 and said, you know what, we got to have that guy.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't sat and stared at Critters 3?
I'm just saying, I have it on loop in my bedroom. I go to sleep to it every night.
I brush my teeth to it. Yeah.
So that was kind of the first mainstream. So, Gilbert Grape's a little bit more artsy. This is kind of the more mainstream. Unfortunately, it wasn't as successful a movie as it could have been, so still not a lot of exposure for Leo. His big break, and what I remember him growing up. So, like, just a fun fact, like, me and you're I think you're a year older than I am. We're
roughly, yeah.
Yeah, so we're roughly just getting into our teenage years when this movie came out. But what I remember him from, and where I was first exposed to him, was Romeo and Juliet. Playing the titular Romeo. Because growing up in that time frame, for us younger viewers, we had the Leo versus Devon Sawa debate going on between all the girls, and that's the ideals that we had to go up against when we were trying to get girlfriends in that time frame. We had to compete with freaking Leonardo DiCaprio in '95 and Devon Sawa. I mean, that's not exactly fair, but that was his mainstream debut. That's what kind of made him begin to be that love interest that's going to kind of dominate him for the next couple years. Joey, so being of our age, tell me where did you fall on the Leo versus Devon? Which was your Romeo?
Oh man, in all honesty, I never really had the Romeo debate, but it's always, I think Leo is definitely always a good pick. I mean, and the reason I say that is because when you say his name, you don't even have to say the rest of his name, and everybody knows who he is, like he's your friend. Leo.
Yeah, he's Leo. Exactly.
Yeah, do you know another Leo? I don't, but I know that one, but he don't know me. So.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, that's kind of where I fall on that. Devon Sawa had, he followed up with Casper, which was his other big hit, but other than that, I mean, apples to apples, you have to look at what this list is going to hit in the next couple minutes. And I think it's a clear victory for Mr. DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about the meteoric rise, the reason that you can say Leo and people know exactly who you're talking about, the very next year is Titanic. And
boom.
Yeah, I mean,
this day, I still breathe on a window and run my fingers down it like I'm in the Titanic movie when I'm in the car. I'm just saying.
I have made love in so many Etzels. I'm just saying. To put into perspective the Titanic thing, for today's kids, I mean, this was our Avengers Endgame. Avatar.
I know I've watched it too much. Let's just say
too many times. I to this day will always remember. I can tell you exactly the day that Titanic went on VHS. And for you young kids
What's
out there,
that?
VHS was tapes that you used to watch movies on. It was before DVDs. For kids even
No,
younger than
I
that,
don't believe you.
DVDs were these discs that you watched movies on before streaming.
I
But
don't believe you. I think you're joshing me.
I was taking driving lessons. So my very first driving lesson was with A&A driving lessons in our beloved Lime, Ohio. And I'll remember it to this day because she hops in the car, she picks me up at Lima Senior, and immediately I had the where I had to drive to was to 6 different stores looking for the Titanic VHSs so she could go and purchase them. We ended up getting them at the CVS on the corner by Elm and Bell Fountain.
And
But
it was the double VHS because the movie's so long,
and
correct?
double VHSs exactly. So one of the very few, you had Godfather, you had a couple others. This was, I mean, this was our 3 hour movies weren't just a commonplace thing back then.
It was the never-ending story of love.
Literally never ending story. You get to tape 2, like, oh my God, we haven't even seen the iceberg yet. But,
Yeah.
I don't know that we can put into perspective just how big that made Leonardo DiCaprio as a star. Um, he goes in and again continues with his love interest type movies. 98, the very next year, The Man in the Iron Mask. Not as critically acclaimed. I dig it. It's got a pretty good cast. It's a good movie.
I think that's way up there on my, what would you call it?
Like your Mount
It
Rushmore.
goes, no, not Mount Rushmore. It's more of your underrated movies.
Yes. Yeah. It's a gem.
Yeah.
It's a hidden gem.
Yeah.
2000.
Deep track.
Yeah. Exactly. 2000. We got The Beach. 2002. Double. I mean, double banger. He joins up with Steven Spielberg for Catch Me If You Can, which is an awesome movie. I think that's the movie that kind of started getting him more into these prestige roles. He started out
he
with
became an
Grapes,
adult.
but this is where he got out of the love interest stuff and started really knocking it out of the park with these giant directors.
Yeah.
And then also in 2002, he gets introduced to a director you may have heard of him. He's done a couple movies here and there. One Mr. Martin Scorsese in Gangs of New York.
Oh yeah. Again, definitely a classic.
Definitely a classic. A movie so long that not only is it a double VHS, this was a double-sided DVD. But I mean, just anytime that you can get your acting chops in with people like Martin Scorsese and the cast from Gangs of New York, I mean, it's literally a who's who of characters there.
I have a little fun fact for you.
Oh, please.
It's not for Gangs of New York, but it's for a later movie that Martin Scorsese directed that Leo was in, Wolf of Wall Street.
Was it which of the 9?
Yeah, but Wolf of Wall Street, Jonah Hill was not supposed to be in that movie.
Who was it originally supposed to be?
They had, I don't know if they already had found an actor, but Jonah Hill was not who they had all thought about. Leo insisted, almost like The Quick and the Dead, like, no, you gotta have. He did almost a cute meet. What do you call it?
Meet cute.
The accidental meet, but did it on purpose to get Jonah Hill in front of Martin. Then got him the part.
Awesome. That's fine. I did not have that one. Thank you for that one. Yeah, because I mean, you got to realize, Jonah Hill at this point was just the guy from Superbad.
He was the goofy guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had done Moneyball at this point, but I mean, that one's a little bit more obscure. But I mean, to get into a Martin Scorsese, which this is kind of where we're leading into with the Gangs of New York. Then you have The Aviator, where he plays Howard Hughes. 2006, he doubles up again with Blood Diamond and The Departed. Finally,
Departed.
The movie finally getting Martin Scorsese his Oscar nod, which we'll get into this a little bit with Leo when we get into the awards. But is it a great movie? Absolutely. Is it the movie that maybe Martin Scorsese should have won an Oscar for? That one's a bit of a stretch. It was definitely his legacy Oscar to give him for that one.
Yeah.
Blood Diamond, great movie as well. 2008, Body of Lies and Revolutionary Road. 2010, once again, Shutter Island, Inception. I mean, he's knocking out two. Also, he's doing a prestige and then a memorable movie back to back. But I mean, Inception, really put. Oh my God, my mind just completely blanked on the Batman director. Help me out.
Is it? It's Inception, right?
Yeah, Inception. Shit, what the fuck is his name? My mind completely.
The director.
Yeah.
Michael Bay. It's not, is it?
No. Oh shit. Who did? All I can think of is Hans Zimmer, and that's the composer. Who did freaking Batman?
Oh, that's easy. That's Michael Keaton.
He's the only Batman.
Yeah, I am Batman.
Why is my mind completely... Christopher Nolan. Jesus Christ, Robert. Come on.
There you go.
You're better than this. I'm leaving this in, by the way. I'm not cutting that out.
You shouldn't.
So already he's knocking it out of the park with Spielberg. He's 4 or 5 movies deep in with Martin Scorsese. He's literally becoming the next Robert De Niro for Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
You have he's hitting it out of the park with Christopher Nolan in Inception. Comes back for J. Edgar in 2011. 2012.
Can I add that Inception was a mindfuck of a movie?
Oh my goodness! Yes, the visual effects and the way that was made. I mean, literally, that movie made Christopher Nolan. That's why he is a name. Sometimes we can't remember that name, but he is a name.
One of the first movies, I took notes as it played so I could ask Sarah, what is this? What was that?
Yeah, exactly.
When it's over. Oh, okay, now I get it.
Yep, that is one of the first movies that I truly remember going there just for the theater experience, because it wouldn't have done it justice watching it on the small screen.
I can see that.
2012, he gets to add to his director's list, joining Quentin Tarantino in Django Unchained. Awesome role.
There's a pretty good stand-up bit a guy has about Leo in that movie.
Is this about the not being offended by the word?
No, not saying how you can eat, how much of a badass is Leo, because think about how that was to play the part as hard as he played it, as real as he played it, and then okay, cut, then you got to go to lunch break with Jamie Foxx and Samuel L. Jackson.
Exactly.
But how awkward was that lunch? Like, I really, guys, it's just business. But, man, you said it awful well.
Right. A little too well.
I mean, that came off the tongue pretty easy.
First time he saw it, first take, you guys think, motherfucker.
Yeah. That word was said once or twice.
Yeah. 2013, we got The Great Gatsby, and then also the previously mentioned Wolf of Wall Street, so continuing his streak with Scorsese. 2015, The Revenant, and then 2019, joins Quentin Tarantino once again with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's doing a lot of documentary work around this time as well, so he's taken a step back from kind of mainstream movies and doing more of the bit parts, but also doing a lot more of the political activism in this time frame. Comes back 2021 in Don't Look Up, and then I'm showing in 2023 we have a movie called Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't have a lot of information on that, but just literally a who's who in regards to movies, all starring this guy here. And fittingly, obviously this has gotten him some attention with the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards. Golden Globes, 1994, he was nominated for Gilbert Grape. 98, you got Titanic. 2003 with Catch Me If You Can. 2005, Aviator. That's actually the first one that he won. He'd only been nominated at that point. So already a couple of these giant movies that he's kind of being snubbed for. 2007, The Departed and Blood Diamond. 2009, Revolutionary Road. 2012, J. Edgar. 13, Django Unchained as a supporting actor. 2014, Wolf of Wall Street. That's only his second win. So again, like movies like J. Edgar and Blood Diamond, Departed, some of these even prestige type films, he's already not getting the nod. He's developing this reputation of the bridesmaid in regards to these.
Yeah.
2016, he does come back and wins for Revenant. 2020, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then 2022, he was nominated for the Don't Look Up. Academy Awards is where it really kind of gets back into the, or not prestige, but the legacy type stuff. So 94, he was nominated for Gilbert Grape. 2005 for Aviator. 2007 for Blood Diamond. 2014, Wolf of Wall Street. 2016 is when he finally gets his first Academy Award, and it's for Revenant. And I'm not knocking Revenant. It's an okay movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Joe.
No, it's one of those, like, if it's on, I'm gonna watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Will I forget that it's? I won't say forget about the movie. It's probably not my top 10, but yeah, man, if you had it on, it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. It's just
you're not seeking it out,
right? But it's definitely. I mean, it's got some good actors, and I love Tom. Was it Tom Hardy, right?
Yes.
You know, I like a lot of things he's in. I did see a clip about Leo and talk about that movie. They said he screamed his way to his first Oscar. He got, correct?
Yes, that was his first win. So after what, 1, 2, 3, 4 nominations and about 47 Golden Globe nominations.
Yeah.
Of all the movies leading up to that, like, it's just not. It goes back to the Scorsese and Departed thing. It's just not the movie that you would expect to be his first win. Like, if he didn't win for Aviator or Blood Diamond or even Gilbert Grape, let's be honest. Or,
yeah.
Okay, The Quick and the Dead. I mean, hello, how are we being, ignored on the nominations for The Quick and the Dead? But Revenant's just not that one that you would think that he would have won.
How long did it take, like Denzel to get one? How many monologues did he have in a movie before finally it was like, that's memorable, and it's like, really? He didn't win for that one?
Yeah. It kind of sheds some light on when you look back at some of these. Meryl Streep, or was it Meryl Streep that was nominated like 20 times and always a runner-up? It's funny to see how some of these, and you look back at some of the movies that they do nominate and the people that do win, and they fall off the face of the earth immediately. Leo has been knocking it out. I mean, this will be 30 years coming up next year that we've had Leo DiCaprio as this billion-dollar movie star, just knocking out of the park. And he's gone through, when I was on Top Gun Minute with my buddy Brian Bowser, shout out to Brian if you're listening, it's the Tom Cruise effect, where you had sexy dreamboat Leo DiCaprio, the love interest in the movies, and then he starts getting into more serious stuff, and he has a renaissance of such. And then he starts to peter out a little bit. Even with the Scorsese flicks, they weren't hitting as big as they used to. And then he makes this resurgence around the Django Unchained time, where he hits Wolf of Wall Street, he hits all these other ones, where we're getting into our third bit of Leo. Like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was an awesome movie, and he did amazing.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Definitely have to. Absolutely.
I know. I saw the previews. I thought it looked really good. I think, not to name drop another guy, but, with Brad Pitt being there with him.
Absolutely.
They're very underrated, how them two can go from a Django to, like you said, an Inception, and then being just a goofy movie and be a goofball.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know. That not everybody can just do that. Yep. Turn it on and off like that.
Yeah, if you enjoyed Inglourious Bastards, you're absolutely going to love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it's Brad Pitt playing an over-the-top character.
There you go.
And you just happen to have, by the way, Leonardo DiCaprio's in it as well. It's very much a great movie. Definitely have to check that out. But that has been a not-so-brief look at Leo. It's hard to do a brief overlook of somebody like Leo DiCaprio, but this has been Put My Name on the Board.
Add my name to the list.
Attaboy!
All right, and we are back, taking a look at Leo DiCaprio playing Kid Fee in our movie The Quick and the Dead. Just want to take a moment. So Joey's joining us here today. Joey's a dear friend of mine from back in the day. We kind of grew up together. History with us, his wife, Sarah, a very dear friend of mine, actually grew up around the corner from me, literally around the block. One of my two oldest friends there, we bowled for years and years and years. And then Joey's sister was best friends with my sister going through middle school and high school. Best of friends for there. We didn't really actually cross paths I don't think until we met up in high school. I mean, we knew of each other, but I don't know that we actually even knew each other up until then.
Well, yeah, we went to different middle schools.
Mm-hmm. I was a
so
Viking, which was better.
What's that?
I was a Viking, which was better.
I'll disagree. Strongly disagree. I have City Champ T-shirt proves it, but okay.
I mean, I got a Viking of the Year trophy lying around here somewhere. Whatever.
That's just for you. Mine is for our whole school, but okay. It's debatable. That can be that'll be our next topic.
That's fair. That's fair.
Actually, though, North is the only school I think left still standing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, South is gone, West is gone. We're the only one. We're the only one still standing, and or by its original name.
Yeah, I don't have any school that I ever went to is still standing.
Yeah. My class was the last class that had all 4 years at the old Lima Senior Building.
Yeah, but I'll digress. But yeah, we went to different middle schools, and so that was. I'm with you though. Yeah, we knew of each other, but not so much around each other as much.
Yep. And Joe, big football star around our area, was known as the athletic guy. Was also known as that guy with the pickup truck. I was secretly country, so I grew up obviously with my dad watching westerns and doing those things. I'd sneak to my room at night and pull the covers over my head and listen to Garth Brooks. Joe is a little bit more outward with his countryness, if that's fair to say.
Appreciate that. What's the old Barbara Mandrell song? Country when country wasn't cool.
And where we grew up, that was not cool.
No, it was not.
But other than that, man, just kind of give our listeners a glimpse. What makes a Joey Prinzi?
Oh man, I like to say, everybody says, "Oh, you change as you get older," and I think you do. But man, for me, I still listen to the same music for the most part. Maybe a different artist, but same music. What makes me is, family. God, for sure. I look to that, and I know sometimes you might see how I act, and you're thinking, how in the world is God helping him? But we all go a different way sometimes. But I would say between I love to play music, man. We got a little small farm here. I've had a small farm for quite a while. Love it. Get on there, ride horses. Me and the kids, between the sports, shooting guns, man, and playing music, I would say that really hits me on the nail head.
Absolutely. And I can vouch for that. I mean, for those listening that think that Joe's doing a character or doing a faker country accent, like I swear to you on everything that everybody knows me, this is 1,000% Joe Prinzi, and has been for the 20 plus years that I've known him.
Thank you. Hey, it's pretty good. I had to go up to Pittsfield for work, and that's Massachusetts, if you're not familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I never realized how much fun of I could get made of just by speaking. So, because I'm like, I'm making fun of y'all the whole time. Here, you're making fun of me. So, they're like, everybody from Ohio talks like that? I'm like, I don't know about everybody, but it's definitely different than Massachusetts. I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is a whole new world up there.
Whereabouts is that in relation like Boston?
Well, Pittsfield. Okay, Massachusetts is not huge, right? Pittsfield is on the other side of the state, so it's closer to like when I had to fly there. I flew to Albany, New York, so it's about an hour from Albany. So I'd say an hour from New York, roughly.
Okay.
So the more western, but you can be like I drove all the way from Vermont up to Maine to New Hampshire, through Boston and back in about 4 hours.
Yeah.
So, it's, even though it seems, it's all on the other side of the state, it's not as big as we're thinking on these big states we live in now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they don't make states like us out there, man. That's, drive back home to Ohio and you got, 14 hours of Texas and 8 hours of New Mexico.
Well, even Ohio, my buddy's down
4.5 hours just in Ohio.
Hunter. Yeah, he's a bounty hunter bondsman, and he had to go get a guy from Cleveland one time. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to come with me because you know Ohio, you're from there." So, okay, we're at Cleveland. I was like, "Man, that's basically Canada. I ain't never been up there." But yeah, that's like saying, "Oh, you're from Tennessee, Memphis." Memphis is 6 hours from me, and I live outside of Knoxville.
Right.
So definitely different up there.
So to give kind of our listeners a bit of a history, so I reached out when I made the announcement for season 2 because I knew that we were going to be doing guests this year. And graciously, you were one of the first ones that hit me up on this. I was kind of surprised because I expected more of my kind of podcast brethren, but you hit me up on Facebook, and I said, hey, that's Joe Prinzi. I know that guy. We got to talking about it, and you were really kind of in love with this movie and was really excited to talk about. Kind of give me or give our listeners kind of a rundown. What's kind of your history with this movie?
Well, it's twofold, not just the movie. Biggest reason, a big reason I wanted to do this also, I've been interested in the podcasting world for a while, so I thought this was a good way to kind of put my toe in the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. In the movie, like you said, grew up watching Westerns with my grandpa. I look back at some of the movies, I'm like, man, that how they were done, they did them how they had to. So I've always been a Western fan, and then you jump forward like the Young Guns, and then you got Tombstone. So it's like it reinvents the Western, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And Quick and the Dead falls right in line with some of those movies. Anything where they're shooting guns and riding horses, I'm a part of it. I like it. I'll at least take an eye of it, and check it out. And then, you got your Russell Crowes and Gene Hackmans.
Oh God,
I
the cast
rewatched it again the other day just to see it, and then you got like the jailbird in there. That's Bobby from Sons of Anarchy.
Yep.
Look at him in there. It's fun to watch those older movies to see the people making their cameos or starting roles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just not to go back to Leo, but I mean, just look how babyface Leonardo DiCaprio is in this movie.
Oh yeah,
like he's anywhere between 15 and 22.
Yeah. And look how skinny,
Oh, yeah.
Man, I don't remember a day I was ever that skinny, but
it wasn't too far after the birth, I'll tell you that. But so, and I'm glad you mentioned the podcasting. We had a great conversation in regards to that. So that was another reason why I wanted to open up to guests because as I mentioned to you prior, I'm a rookie in this as well. Last season was my first foray into this. Again, my buddy Brian, it was his first foray into it this year too. So. I encourage anybody listening that has that same desire to kind of get an idea of what podcasting is and all that, reach out to some of these people that are local doing theirs. I guarantee you they're probably going to be more than happy to get you on as a guest or to talk to you about it because that's where they started as well. That you just have to ultimately one day step in and do it and get that experience so that you can see if this is something that you want to continue on. But, I commend Joe for doing that as well. But anybody else that's listening on there, that's how you do it. You just kind of ask questions and get a feel for things. And then one day you're sitting down, you're recording. It's that quick. So your history of the movie, thank you for that. You had actually reached out and requested specifically this one chapter, out of the entire movie that we threw out there. You said, hey, is the one with the farmer's hands, is that available? And it definitely was. What kind of brings you to this specific chapter before we dive in?
Well, I can tell you, I won't say it's my favorite because I don't know if I don't ever want to say favorite, but it's definitely one of my most memorable parts about that movie. If it was the one, say I haven't watched the movie in 15 years, that'd be the part I remember. I think it's because hands, I know as dumb as it sounds, like to bring back an old movie, Forrest Gump, because you can tell a lot by a man's shoes, I think hands are the same, if not more.
Absolutely.
Because I can change my shoes, but a man can't change his hands. And you can tell by looking, you shake a man's hand, you can tell so much about him, how it feels, how stern, is it clammy, is it, just so much.
Yep, absolutely.
And you don't realize how much that means. Real quick, I took my daughter when she was a lot smaller to go see John Anderson. If you know him, he's an old country singer from the 70s. Yep, still making his way. They had an opening act for him. And that guy said, hey, I'm here, and I'm going to sign autographs. I said, hey, you want to go? We never heard of the guy. I don't remember his name. She wants to meet him because she's like 10. So we go up there to meet him, and she shakes his hands, and she was like, his hands feel weird. She's like 10, right? So then we go back down and we watch John Anderson. He's like the man. She's in awe by the star.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's walking off. I got her up front. He reaches down and shakes her hands. She was like, his hands were so soft. and what I'm getting at by that is, like, even at 10 years old, she knows the difference between, I was like, well, he's a musician by trade.
Mm-hmm.
He's not doing what I'm doing, where the hands are beat up, busted, and there's a little bit of arthritis probably in the knuckles, and so that's what really brings it to me, is that scene, is for that reason. You look at a man's hands, you can almost tell a lot about him without him saying a word.
Absolutely. It's definitely a part of a person's character. I can kind of sympathize with that as well. When I was running the pro shop for bowling, when I'm doing a fit check for somebody, a big part of that is you take their fingers and you bend them and flex them and see what their flexibility is, so you can do the pitches. Long story, whatever.
Yeah.
And you could always tell the mechanics and the farm hands and the people that sat for a living like me. There's just that difference in that, like you can tell mechanics' hands in 2 seconds. Yeah. They're almost permanently curled a little bit, where they're not going to be able to make a full fist, but they can't exactly extend their hand out at the same time.
Right.
So okay.
Nope,
right.
It's definitely something.
Yep, absolutely. So let's jump into our chapter. So again, we are looking at chapter 7, A Gun for Cort, and we start our chapter inside the gun store ran by the kid. And Herod is standing at the counter waiting for Cort, who had just been thrown into the door, and he has a mock face of shock at the display of violence that we just saw the preacher show by in our previous chapter ending, kicking the door in poor Ratsy's face. It put a ding on our tally for how many broken noses Ratsy gets during this movie, but. And it's, of course, a fake shock, as Gene Hackman actually has an amused smirk during the whole thing, and he's starting to really see the walls of Preacher's self-control start to crumble down, and that's definitely to his own amusement. And I have to say, I find the continued pushing of Cort interesting, because as we see throughout the movie, Gene Hackman is trying to bring back the killer in Russell Crowe. And I have to ask, like, to what end? It's, if he's so sure that the preacher's going to die throughout the tournament, that he doesn't really care if he pokes the bear, or is he trying to get the best of Russell Crowe to show up so he can beat him at his best, knowing that it's probably going to be the two of them in the final? Is it a bit of an ego boost for himself that, when I beat him at his best? It wasn't him just standing there saying he wouldn't fight because he's a man of God now? Or is there a scenario where Russell Crowe gives up and actually rejoins his friend, and depending on the shipping situation, there's some debate on whether this is one of his former loves, but whatever. That's another conversation. Joey, what do you think there? What is driving Herod to kind of poke the bear and try to get this killer back out of somebody that's relatively pacifist and not really a threat right now?
Well, I think, and this is maybe going, I don't know how deep, but most people you run into with the stature of power, say of Gene Hackman's role, it's more of
or Gene Hackman in life.
Yeah, right. It's a lot of it is just I just want to see if I can, or because you say I can't, now I want to, and that's what makes them who they are, to where they've gotten where they've got. Because you said I can't, hold my beer, watch this shit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I would think that would be the short. Now, there's probably a little more in depth to it, but if you want to put it at its simplest form, it's kind of hold my beer type of thing. And there's part of, if I beat you, I want to beat you at your best, but a lot of it's just to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
Because you say I can't.
I like it. I like it. So, quick hot take: former friends or former lovers?
Who?
Herod and Cort.
Well, lovers for sure.
I love that. That's kind of been the unanimous theory. So
A bromance.
a bromance, if you will. But personally, I agree with you 100%. I think he's so insulted that someone who he saw as kind of a son figure is trying to pretend to put it behind him and walk the straight and narrow. And since he has kind of built his life on this kind of ruthlessness, perhaps he doesn't want the thought that there is a way out for even someone like him. Like he's become so accustomed to his lifestyle that he doesn't even want to think that there may be redemption, name of the city. There is that redemption for him. So yeah, I definitely agree that it's more of a to see if he can to kind of prove himself right.
Well, yeah, and there's some of it, and some of the other go a little more real life. There's some people, they just don't like to see other people living better than them.
There's that.
There's always that. Good movie happened to watch last night. That was kind of in that movie, Machine Gun Preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Where his buddy is like, "Hey, do you want to taste?" Like, no, I just told you I'm not, but yet you're still asking me because you don't want to believe that I can live a better life than you.
Yep. You
see that a lot. But.
Yep. For somebody that has all the material gain in the world, it's hard to see something that and maybe that's the flip side is maybe it's not that he doesn't want to see that there is a redemption for him. Maybe he doesn't want that to exist because he knows that he personally can't reach that. It's something that he can obtain.
Yeah, it's probably it's an onion. It's a Shrek. It's a layers.
You mean they're smelly?
There's layers. Yeah, it's smelly, really smelly.
I mean, indoor plumbing
doesn't
wasn't
like
really a thing
smells.
Then,
Yeah. There's multiple layers.
Multiple layers. I like it. It's kind of like a parfait. Everybody loves a parfait.
Yeah.
So here it informs a kid that he's there to get the Reverend a gun, and the kid tells him there's other places in town to buy one. He doesn't really want Herod's business. So there's definitely some sort of animosity between the two of them, and it can't be anything too crazy because otherwise he would have likely had the kid killed for talking back to him the way he did. So interesting to see as the movie goes on what exactly that dynamic may end up being. But he instead of just ending him right then and there, he does trade verbal jabs with him, and including insulting the fact that Leo, in fact, does not have gunfighter hands, but rather has farmer hands. And this is obviously a sore spot for the kid because he rebukes having farmer's hands. And this is one of the times during the movie that I have to commend. Like Hackman, first of all, it's as I said before, it's Gene fucking Hackman, guys. He does just this amazing job facially, giving off all the venom his words that he can possibly give, reminding the kid that he and Cort are killers, but the kid is of a different stock. And it goes to what you talked about with the hands. I find it interesting that, I'm not a gunfighter, not professionally, at least.
Yeah, just amateur.
Yeah, amateur. I went through the Canadian ranks for a little bit.
Back alley. Yeah, I got you.
I mean, Limey, you kind of had to know what to do. But there was a lot of draw. It wasn't quick draw at that point.
No, it was more drive-by.
Yeah. The only quick he did was with the car. I find it interesting that looking at his hands, because he's laying his hands flat on the counter. That's how he gets him to go with it. And to counteract that, you see Gene Hackman put his hands on it, and they're kind of, as I mentioned with the mechanic's hands, kind of partially bent at the first knuckles and kind of in a claw type look for it. And I wonder if that's what he means by it, or if he's looking at the callousness of it, or what exactly makes him look. Because when I think of a farmer's hands, I personally, and you can speak from personal experience with this, wouldn't that mean that they were more of a rougher stock and maybe a little bit more gnarled from ropes and tools and such?
Yeah, but what I think he means by it is like just the length of the finger. Are they, are you got more of, I hear people say, oh, those are piano hands.
Which I have, yes.
You heard that?
I know that well, yeah.
So that's how you take it, like more of a big stalky palm, or are they long, sleek fingers? Is there some weathered age to it, or can you just tell that it just doesn't have it's almost like looking at a body type for an athlete, like that one, that's good as as hard as they're going to work, they're never going to be the athlete that person just is, because their body type is going to elevate them to that point.
Right. Genetics kicks in at some point.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I like this. So it's interesting to think that you're kind of born with that trait more than him just saying like, I've been doing this for 40 years. This is the hands of a gunfighter. That's an interesting take. I like that.
Well, it's almost like, you can put all the work in you're not going to be, and I don't think all of it was meant just hands either. It was kind of that killer, the instinct, the inside, the heartless, almost versus say like a cowboy versus somebody who rides bulls.
Sure.
The cowboy would tell you, you just ride bulls for fun, for show, but a cowboy does this work.
I do them across Montana.
There you go. It's kind of like that, I guess, is how I'm trying to think of. Like, in that movie, Leo is the all for show, hey, look at me, I'm fast. The other one is just a downright killer.
Right. And it does kind of speak to him. He kind of has this persona, which you kind of just touched on, of he's pretending to be a gunfighter. And it harkens back to when Sharon Stone wakes up and she sees the picture of the kid as a kid with the guns and the bandoleros on, like that. Has he been pretending to be this gunfighter and trying to be like, spoiler alert, Herod, his dad, whereas Herod is a gunfighter. He doesn't have to pretend. It just is who exactly he is. Which I never thought of until this moment. So let's take a step back. That picture, you're familiar with what I'm talking about. It's the picture of him as like a 6 or 7 year old.
Right.
What do you think? Because the contention here is that Herod is denying that he's his dad, and Leo's character is actually named Phi Herod. We never hear the Herod part in the movie. He doesn't name himself Phi when he introduces himself to Sharon Stone, but growing up, like if he was supposedly the farmer's kid, that implies that his mom is the farmer's wife, or how I took it at least, that Herod had a thing going on with the farmer's wife. So who's taking...
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Or his wife had a thing with a farmer.
I mean, there's that... And see, that I don't feel that one because... Oh, wait. Because he does mention that he was married once.
That's how I did it.
I never put those two together.
The farmer, because you never see the wife.
Right. Well, he makes it clear what he ended up doing with his wife, but I never put those two together because I always assumed that nobody would have the balls to screw around with Herod's wife, which apparently she did. I mean, that obviously it says right there in the movie, but I never took that to be
that thing between a woman's legs will make men do things they shouldn't do.
I wouldn't know. I'm chaste as the driven snow. I still don't know where my 4 kids came from.
It just how my grandma put it, the buzzard shit them out and the sun hatched them. That's how I guess I was told I was here.
That's fair. I never put that part together, but that makes sense. Okay. So that's where I was leading to with the picture was who took that picture? Did he grow up just in this town with Herod? Just Herod not claiming him? Or did he grow up on the farm and then moved into the town because that's where Herod's at? But if he was Herod's wife's kid and he killed his wife, then he would have been in the town, and that would make sense that's why he grew up there. I like that. Okay.
That's how I took it.
I had not seen it from that side. This is why we do these things, guys.
Change the movie.
It completely. This movie's completely changed. I need to stop the podcast now and redo my entire script now. But to get back, so he's reminded of the fact that the kid does in fact believe that he's Herod's son, as we just spoke to, but that level of wordplay and making sure that the kid realizes where his heritage is, that he didn't inherit any of the gunfighter skills from, it's a great way to have him reboot the rumors without having to flat out say it, because he never, up until the end of the movie, when he, spoiler, kills him, he never admits to anything about all the rumors about him being his kid.
Well, and like, what does he say? I love the part in there, and you've heard it your whole life from somebody or one walk of life, but when he says, we come from different stock. Mm-hmm. That just, to me, that lets you learn a little bit more too. And some of that is It's not just genetics. It's just like your kids are different from you because of how and where they grew up versus how and where you grew up.
Oh, absolutely. There's
It's
not an ounce
not
of
just so
ghetto in
much
my
that
kids.
it changes the stock in them.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little bit too. I've had this discussion with some of my other, longtime friends who are talking about our kids, and we're like, it's different. Well, that's the point. We're supposed to, you try to get better for them than maybe where you were.
Yeah.
But that does change the stock. It doesn't change the genetics, but maybe the stock of how they look at things.
Yep, absolutely. And growing up with our kids, I by no means had a bad childhood. I don't want to throw that out there, but we grew up in an area.
It was no. Lima was I don't know how I've tried to explain it to other people. Moving away, I'm like, I don't want to say it's the roughest thing ever, but it's not very big in comparison to big cities. But for as big as it was pretty rough for what it was.
Right. And that's something we're fortunate to not have with our kids. But at the same time, we still are desperately trying to teach them the hustle and the grinding it out as if you have nothing.
Oh, there's things I realize that I took from there that'll never be ingrained or I'm ingrained with permanently.
Yep.
If we go out down here, man, I know where every exit door is. I know to watch everybody, who looks as what, who's with who.
Yep. Just that situational
heads on a
awareness.
swivel.
Absolutely.
But,
And so Leo's visibly disturbed by this. It definitely shuts him down, and he begins to get into a sales pitch for the various guns he has to offer. When he gets to the Army 44, I always got hung up on the fact that he starts to say one number for the amount of bank robberies it was successfully used in, but he stops himself and actually says a number one lower than that. And as a salesperson, you would think that he would stop and inflate his numbers because it makes it sound better. And that's where I thought it was a mix-up for years. And it wasn't until I actually started watching this with Jess, my wife. She pointed out that he took the number away for the bank robbery that wasn't successful and thus became the late owner of the gun. And now that makes sense. So that's where he got the gun from, was he got off the guy that wasn't as successful in robbing the bank from there. So just all sorts of revelations for me watching this movie. I could watch it 1,000 times, and I watch it with somebody else, and like Joe, he completely upends my entire view. I don't even know if I like this movie anymore.
Another movie that does that to me to this day is Natural Born Killers.
Oh God, yes. Well, there's
so
a lot of layers to that movie too.
Yeah, there's so much to pick up and grab from, and like, oh my God, I never noticed that. And that comes from when we didn't have cable, and all we had was Channel 5 back in Lima, and so we watched the VHS of that over and over.
Yep, I've mentioned it quite a bit during the Christmas episodes that I did. Shout out to my listeners. Please go back and listen to those. But yeah, we had 3 VHS tapes growing up, so I know those 3 movies by heart.
Tombstone was one for me. Blood In, Blood Out was one we watched over and over. I'm trying to think. There was a few that were steady repeats. Natural Born Killers was on there.
So ours was Aladdin, the original Home Alone, Weekend at Bernie's, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
How do you beat Weekend at Bernie's?
I can neither confirm or deny that may be on the short list for one of these seasons. So the preacher's pacing back and forth, and he's trying hard not to stare at the hardware. And, as I mentioned with Gene Hackman, this is a great bit of addiction acting for Russell Crowe. You can almost substitute a recovering addict being shown a premium version of whatever their vice may be. You can see the sweat beading on his brow and the beady eyes. He really pulls off that want very, very well. And Gene Hackman asks him when the last time that he had held a gun, and he replies to Harriet that he knows exactly when. So obviously there was a bit of an event between the two of them that we're not sure we'll get into, but maybe it'll come up a bit later in the film. And that's one of the things that I really have to give it to this movie, because I know some people panned it. They didn't really care for it, but I say to those people, one, they don't like spaghetti westerns, because there's plenty of comedy in them. It's just taken up a notch, being a Sam Raimi joint. And two, they don't like Sam Raimi joints because as a fan, this movie is right in his wheelhouse. You know, knowing what a Sam Raimi movie is now, you can go back and watch this and go, okay, that's a Sam Raimi moment. That's a Sam Raimi moment. And three, I don't think that they're paying attention to these little subtle things like this, the eye movements and the acting they're just kind of sprinkled out throughout the script, but they're being overlooked because of all the over the top spectacle of the other things in the movie. So the camera pans and the over the top acting. You go back and watch just Gene Hackman, or you go back and watch just Russell Crowe in these little moments that you think are nothing, and watch their facial tics. Watch the way they're acting. These guys are acting their asses off without having to really do anything.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And it's, I mean, that's just in their DNA. I mean, they're great actors for a reason.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, I could probably listen to Gene Hackman read the phone book and be intrigued.
Oh God, wait till he
wait
till he gets
what's
the
next.
ends. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you know, even from his where he was the bad guy in Superman. You know, he makes those movies. you know, Hoosiers, of course.
Yep.
You name it, he's in it. He can steal it. You know, there's only a few actors that are like him, I would say, that can, and they jump around too. You know, another one that really can pull you in is, was it John Lithgow?
Oh God, yes.
You know, Paul Giamatti.
Yes.
You know, like when he's in Cinderella Man and he's the trainer, I mean, that scream he gets, it's so intense. And Gene Hackman, I think, is the same way. It's like he's got that, just that voice that can turn it on where you're gonna tune in.
Yeah, he's one of the old school. Like they always talked about in the old actors, the screen presence. You know, when they come up on the screen, you watch. You know, you can't not, whether it's charisma, whether it's magnetism, whatever it is. Like he literally commands the screen every time that he's on it.
I would agree.
So the preacher's handed one of the guns, and he immediately starts twirling it around. And it is a nice bit of work, and you would almost expect that it would be a stunt hand that was doing it, because it's shot primarily from the neck down. But we do pan up, and we see Crow throughout it. So props to him for his training. And speaking of, one of the notes in my research was, so the entire cast had crash courses on gunfighting, obviously, throughout the movie, so it could be realistic. They didn't have to use, stuntmen to do a lot of it. And as you can see throughout the movie, they do their own work, but they would even have a little quick draw contest amongst themselves. And in retrospect, and reading that bit of research, like now that we live in a post-Rust area, I don't know if you're familiar with the whole Rust movie fiasco. That was the Alec Baldwin thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So a little bit of a different time.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily be going around with your guns and doing fake quick draws without the camera and the safety guys there now. So we thank Mr. Baldwin for eliminating that. But
well, it probably no surprise to you, or if anybody else is listening, what they've heard. I'm a big Yellowstone fan. Love the show.
Yep.
I watched a little interview with the one girl on there. I can't remember her name. The one who talks real funny. They make fun of Tex. All right. She is, she's British, I think, from England. Never done anything like this, but because they wanted it to look as realistic, she had to learn to rope, how to ride, and all that. She said it's like brought it out in her where now, like she's got her own ranch.
She's a country girl.
She likes to do. It's like it brought her out. But so in that saying, I think that still goes on, just not, you got to do the deep dives to find out about it, because you want it as realistic. And these people, what they get paid, they almost should do that. Go be that person for a while, to a degree, unless you're like being Jeffrey Dahmer in a movie.
I mean, I'm not saying that maybe he did method acting for that role. I don't know.
I got to imagine he probably had to listen and hear things that he'll never get out of his brain. Unfortunately.
Right. I am saying here and now, I would put money on the fact that man has tasted flesh. I'm just saying.
At some point of something.
But so supposedly for the practice and all this, supposedly Gene Hackman actually became the fastest in the crew, and whether that is because he's obviously got a more of a background in westerns, The Unforgiven and other things throughout his career, but also he has the most limited screen time, so he had the most time to actually do the practices. But supposedly, according to my internet research, Gene Hackman was actually the fastest draw of the crew in real life.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting.
Yeah. So the gun costs $120, which of course he doesn't have, and as a good Samaritan, Herod agrees to buy the cheapest piece of shit the kid has, and he gets him a rusted $5 gun. And Leo does assure Cort that it does shoot straight, and he wouldn't sell it if it didn't. So it does show as a character that his heart is at least in the right place. That he's not the con man that he's making it out to be. He's at least going to make sure that he's not getting this guy killed and have that on his conscience. Excuse me. And Herod tells the kid that he needs to only load one bullet in the gun, as that's all it would need to have with God on his side. And back to the poking the bear conversation. Oh, good.
Well, and that's not all he said. He said the other part is that he'd be tempted to shoot his way out of town.
Right. But to me, it's still even a risky move on my part. And kind of going back to the poke the bear thing, if Russell Crowe already thinks that his life is forfeit, like he's just walking into his own demise, he could just blast Hackman in the face right here. One bullet's all it would take. There's no, if you look around, this is the only time I think in the movie that there's no bodyguards literally inside the building with him. And another fact I found interesting, it's apparently Cort's not up for killing and risking his chance to make good with the Lord. In fact, he even states that he's not going to fight in the contest, to which, Hackman assures him that, yes, in fact, he is going to draw. But when it comes down to it, at some point, is he doing the Lord's work by taking out this guy? But at some point, if he's already starting to break down the walls on Russell Crowe, man, you got to think that that's a risk to even give him that one bullet.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. But that's that whole, that's what makes that character, who that character is, as in different stock. I'm willing to play this game. I'm willing to take this chance to live on this edge, put lightning in a bottle for a minute, per se. Something me or you, because it's one of those, well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't feel right. Well, we don't know what those people think because we're not those people.
Right. We're not in that situation. Exactly.
Right. Or have that mindset in general.
I could cap a dude. I don't know. Yeah. So that ends our chapter with that. So Joe,
if I can add one quick thing about that
please
scene that I did like a lot, was that he did take the $5 gun, and I love that because that's always been something I've always said to myself, to my kids, everything. You ain't got to have the best, nicest, fanciest, like when it comes to even playing music. I don't need the $3,000, but you can play. Mm-hmm. Growing up playing basketball on the street, I don't need it to be the best court ever. I can nail a milk crate up to the telephone pole. We can play basketball.
Yep. Give me a ball and a hoop. That's all I need.
And it just goes to show you, I don't have to have the best. I don't need the most expensive. Just get me one. I'll show you what I can do.
Yep.
So I like that part of it too. I think that all that in that scene is what I like.
Yeah, it really plays into his character of being that down to earth human. We haven't seen a lot of humans yet in this movie.
Right.
So that ends our chapter for chapter 7. We will be back soon for chapter 8, Cort versus Foy. Spoiler, we'll see whether that one bullet comes into play or if this is in fact the preacher's chance to go be with God. Joe, wanted to thank you for joining us today. One of the little games I like to play with my guests, it's a little bit of fun. Get a feel for where you're coming from mentally on this movie. It's a little game that you may be familiar with. It's called Fuck, Marry, Kill. And I want you, if you could, Mr. Pooontang Down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell me, of the characters in this movie, Pick 3, 1 to fuck, 1 to marry, 1 to kill, and go.
I pick the 3, or you pick the 3 and I pick what to do with them?
You're the one that's got to do it.
Okay, all right. The one I'm going to kill, fuck, and marry, right?
Yep.
Okay, the one I'm going to kill, I'm going to kill Gene Hackman.
Oh, okay.
Killing Gene Hackman. He's got evil I don't like.
He's got the bad juju.
Yeah. Who I'm going to fuck? I'm going to fuck Leo. I mean, that's Leo DiCaprio. Who wouldn't want to fuck Leo DiCaprio?
I'm not shaming you.
I mean, especially as young as he was.
Yeah,
you're
talking 20s Leo, man. This is the Leo we grew up with. So, I mean, this is your Romeo.
Yeah, so I can tell everybody, hey, I like Leo DiCaprio. And see, since I only have to do it once, that's why him. Marry, I guess I have to marry Sharon Stone because I got to do it over and over.
That's fair.
And since I'm not gay, I only want to do Leo to say I did Leo.
Hey, not to shame, man. I'm just saying. And I happen to know for a fact that your wife, during the whole Romeo fiasco, she was a Devon girl. So you get to rub in her face that you had the other Romeo.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm kind of thinking about what I just said and how it's a little fucked up.
That's all right, man.
But in a good way. In a good
way.
Yeah.
So, Joe, where can people find you? What are you involved with, man?
Well, to be honest, I'm not really involved with a whole lot right now. What I'm looking to do is get back into playing do some original music. A lot of stuff I've been writing and trying to get it back out there. So when I get some links and get some stuff, I'll shoot it your way and see if you can whore me out a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I have never been scared to do selfless, shameless promotion, so I will do it for my friends as well. Absolutely.
10-4. Appreciate that.
All right. Well, with that, folks, we're going to wrap up for this chapter. As always, I thank you for your time. If you have a few moments, it's absolutely free. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to us on your favorite podcatchers. We are out there everywhere that podcasts are to be found. We do have our social media sites, so we are Support Your Local Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can always hit us up with any comments, feedback, questions, comments, concerns, anything like that at SUPP, S-U-P-P, your local podcast at gmail.com. Please take the moment to rate and review us. That's where it really makes a huge impact for us as a show. Again, it's 1,000% free. It's not going to cost you anything, but on my end, gets us moved up in the rankings, gets us seen and heard by more people. Again, my 2023 goal, I do want to be the number one podcast that's covering Sam Raimi's Quick and the Dead, one chapter at a time in Zimbabwe. We got to number 3 with Support Your Local Sheriff. Those other 2 podcasts, I don't know where they came from, but my goal is number 1 in Zimbabwe. So if you can help make that happen by hitting us up with a rate and review. But until we meet again, folks, Joe, I want to thank you for your time and join us with us. It's been a blast, man. Hopefully we'll have you back in the very, very near future. But until we meet again, folks, I love you. Take care. Thank you for your time. And as always, support your local podcast.